Good morning and welcome to today's video from Yoker Evangelical Church. It's Friday the 14th of May today, and in our Bible reading plan we read Isaiah chapter 13 and we started a new book as we read 1 Peter chapter 1. It's 1 Peter chapter 1 that I want to take a look at. But first I want to ask, have you ever been in a situation where you knew that you were an outsider? Can you think of a time in your life where you were aware that you were different from all the people around you? Maybe at some point you've had to work in another country where you could see loads of differences. Maybe you've had to visit a club that you weren't a part of. Maybe you've just been to a concert of a band that you don't really know and everybody else seems to love them. In all these situations where we maybe feel like outsiders, the same things happen. We notice how different we are. It can start to make us feel a wee bit uncomfortable. It can be really difficult to live as an outsider or as an exile. It's that same idea of not belonging where you are. And yet that is exactly what Peter, who wrote this letter, calls Christians right at the start. In verses 1 and 2, just listen to what he writes. He says, Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to God's elect, exiles scattered throughout the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia and Bithynia, who have been chosen according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, through the sanctifying work of the Spirit, to be obedient to Jesus Christ and sprinkled with his blood. Grace and peace be yours in abundance. Peter there calls Christians exiles, and he is telling them in that word what it will be like to live as a Christian. He says that to live as a Christian will feel like being an outsider. Because they have been chosen and saved by God, life will look different for the Christian than from the people that they interact with. It's as simple as that. If something as dramatic as being saved from your sin has happened, you take on a new identity that will be totally different from the people around you who have not been saved. And so he writes that you will feel like an outsider, you will be scattered, not huddled together. Christians often have this impulse to hide together and gather and not talk to outsiders because life is easier that way. But actually, as Peter writes, it's obvious. Christians are to be out in the world interacting with people. Yes, as part of a church and have that as their home, but if that is their whole life, they are not living as exiles. And they will be sanctified. They will be being made more like Jesus. That is what makes Christians exiles, the fact that they will be different as they seek to follow Jesus. And so, Christian, today, you are an outsider. You are an exile. And so the question that we're left with is, how do I live as an exile? What is this going to look like? In the place that I call home, in the community in which I've always felt comfortable, now that I've become a Christian and have now called an exile, how am I going to live? And well, this is the question that the whole book of 1 Peter is seeking to answer for us. Peter is going to help us understand what it will look like to follow Jesus when we feel like outsiders. The whole letter will look at this, but just to pick one reason or one thing that this is going to look like from chapter 1. Take a look with me at verse 13, where he writes, Therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. To survive as an exile, Peter writes, we must fix our hope on what is to come. In this life, Christians should expect persecution and unfairness. We should not expect life to be just for the Christian just now. And you're kidding yourself if you think that Christians are going to become the norm, that we are going to somehow become comfortable and accepted. As we face this life then as exiles, what does Peter write? Fix your hope fully on the future hope of Christ's return. Keep your eyes focused on him coming back and find your ultimate hope there, not in just now. And as we do that, we will be living out our life as exiles with our eyes fixed on Christ's return. I hope you have a great day today, and God bless.